Welcome, everyone. Today we're discussing the upcoming concert season for the Waterloo Cedar Falls Symphony Orchestra and the many exciting events that we will attend and host in 2018-19. Today we have Jason Weinberger, the Pauline Barrett Artistic Director and Conductor of the Symphony, and also Jim Miller, the Co-Executive Director of the Symphony. Jason, I know you're very excited about this upcoming season. The first concert date this fall is Saturday, September 29th. At the Gallagher Blue Dorn Performing Arts Center. Can you give us a few details about the upcoming season?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited about the season, like you said, Brad, and can't wait for us to be making music again. We're excited to start our season with this wonderful gala concert. It features the music of Tchaikovsky, including his Fifth Symphony, which I think is one of the great works in the whole symphonic literature. Really exciting piece and features the whole orchestra. And we're hosting a wonderful guest artist. Her name is Simona Dinnerstein. She's a pianist, and many people have heard of her. Her recordings have been nominated for a variety of awards, and she actually has been on the Billboard charts lately with an album featuring the new Philip Glass Piano Concerto that hit #1 on the classical charts, and that's the piece we're going to be playing with her. One cool thing about this concert, we are partly responsible for the existence of that piece. We have co-commissioned that with a host of other orchestras, so it's great to be able to present her and the Philip Glass Concerto here alongside the music of Tchaikovsky to kick off our season.
Well, that's kind of a rare thing, doing a commissioned piece, isn't it?
Well, we try to do that, seems like at least once a year, but to have a chance to work with a composer of the magnitude of Philip Glass is just incredible. One of the great living composers, and he's written film scores and all kinds of things. So that's a great way to open up our season before we head into the rest of the fall, which will feature a bunch of other wonderful events. We've got a film coming, which we're very excited about, and that is Disney's The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is a film by Tim Burton. It's a wonderful movie, and we play the score live while the film is projected on the big screen at Gallagher. So it's really exciting to see that. It's very unlike seeing a regular movie in a theater. It's totally different feeling, and especially with a movie like this, which has such great music. And then in December, we're going to be heading to the Brown Derby. So that first half of our season there just has some wonderful offerings, including wrapping up in the end of 2018 with that December concert, Christmas music from the Baroque at the Brown Derby Ballroom in Waterloo.
Now, the Brown Derby is a very different venue than the Gallagher Blue Dorn Great Hall. Can you describe that setting and how it's different as far as the musicians' approach?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the Gallagher's this wonderful concert hall. You know, I think it's one of the best concert halls I've ever worked in. And it's so great for us to have those 4 concerts there and kind of features the full orchestra. The Brown Derby is somewhat the flip side of that. We'll do our concert there in December, and then in March of 2019 we'll return there as well to do some music of Mozart. And in these concerts we have a smaller group. So, you know, in December we'll have a group of about 12 or 13 musicians. The same again in March, first time strings, second time winds. And they sit in the middle of the room, and the audience sits around us. So it's just a whole different feeling. Instead of being down in the floor of the hall there and looking on stage at the big orchestra, you're literally sitting right next to the musicians. And for the players, it's neat because, you know, we sort of have that unique contact with our audience. It's not like who's out there in the dark auditorium. You know, everybody's sitting right there. So it's a wonderful chance to interact with the musicians. And I should also note, a lot of the music that we play at the Brown Derby was written to be played in those types of settings. You know, this stuff like Mozart and Bach, those guys never saw a giant concert hall like Gallagher. So when we play that music in a smaller venue, it's actually quite similar to the way these composers envisioned it as well themselves.
Well, it's an opportunity for the audience to get an up close and personal view of what the musicians are like, as if they're sitting on stage with them. And especially since the audience surrounds the orchestra, you can see it from different vantage points. And like you said, it's a historical setting, the way that music would have been originally performed. So that's really kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, it's a neat way to bring people close to the music. And I should say, we really work on that as well with our Gallagher concerts. You know, we have pre-concert talks where myself and guest artists will hang out in the lobby, and we'll talk a bit about the program. In fact, one of the things I love about our concerts here is we're very accessible to the audience, you know, both on stage and also before and after the concert. And so even when we have our spring concerts at the Gallagher in February, a Valentine's concert, featuring Porgy and Bess, and also one of the musical tellings of Romeo and Juliet. That's a really wonderful opportunity, actually, to kind of get up close with the orchestra, even though it's at the big hall. And then when we come into the end of the year, we're going to have a concert with Gary Kelly and hear a bit more about that on this program. And that's another opportunity for audiences to go deep inside a great musical story from right here in Iowa. So there's a lot of approachability in these concerts, and I think regardless of venue, people are always surprised. They say, wow, I thought the symphony would be a little more formal and maybe kind of reserved. And what they find, generally, what audiences find, is that our concerts are quite a bit of fun and a lot more approachable than people might expect from the symphony.
Well, and I have to interject. Speaking of that, Jason allowed me to guest conduct for about 30 seconds this past season, and it was a lot of fun. It was bad, but it was a lot of fun. So yeah, you'll see a little bit of everything in our concerts. Yeah.
Now the times have changed for the concerts at the Brown Derby, I understand.
Yes, we made some slight changes this year. At the Brown Derby, we'll have 2 concerts on each of those dates, one at 4 o'clock and one at 7 o'clock. That should give folks, if they want to go to the 4 o'clock concert, Jason, sometimes those last an hour and 15 minutes or something like that.
That's about right.
They could go to dinner after that, or for the 7 o'clock performance, we've moved it up much earlier, and folks could go eat prior to going to that concert. And yeah, right downtown Waterloo. And I do want to mention that we have free parking in the parking ramp. Up on the 2nd level, I think it's called the E level, you can walk right across the alley, right into the actual venue, so you can be right there with the music. So it's a wonderful place to be.
Jim, you have a friend of mine and a former student working in the symphony office this year. Can you tell us about the staff at the symphony office?
Yes, we do. That would be Maddie Hartlip, and she's just wonderful. She will be a sophomore this year, and she is a music student at UNI in education, and she also is in vocal. And this summer, she's working from roughly 9 to 3 or 9 to 4 in our office full-time. And during the school year, Maddie will probably work 10 hours a week with us again this season. And so we're so blessed to have her. We also have a new production manager, and that's John Childs. He's also with the UNI Suzuki program. And so we're so happy to have him helping us, and particularly helping Jason throughout the season and all of our special education events, our lollipop events. We have Nathan Stuckey, who is our musicians manager. He's been with us a number of years and is a key person. And then our other co-executive director is Kathy Duke, and so Kathy does a lot of our grant writing and also our accounting. Then of course I handle the sponsorships and the advertising and some of those things.
Jason, I know you are the Cedar Valley community representative for the symphony, and you have been here for more than 15 years?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm amazed at the number of students and people that you interact with throughout the year, and different types of events that you're involved with. Can you tell us a little about those?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just the other day I had an experience which really brings home the opportunity, but also the responsibility that I've been given with the symphony to represent classical music to the wider community. I went for a bike ride with a guy I've gotten to know a little bit around town, and we were kind of doing the math and figuring things out, and it turns out that he came to see one of my very first youth concerts with the symphony way back in probably 2003, 2004, right when I got here. And he remembered that and remembered that experience from his elementary school days. He's a little bit younger than I am, as you would imagine. But that kind of conversation always brings home to me the fact that there are really thousands of kids who are impacted by our education programs every single year. And they run the gamut from our lollipop shows, which are for the youngest kids, first concert experiences, up through some of our family concerts that we do and bring families into the Gallagher. And of course our youth concerts every year that take place at the Gallagher as well serve 4,000 area elementary school students every single year. We also have a chance to go into the schools. So I'll visit a lot of the schools ahead of those youth concerts, or we have our Ensembles in the Schools program, which has really grown the last couple of years. Now we bring these full ensembles out to perform for kids in their schools as well. Kind of reinforcing a lot of the stuff they learn on the youth concerts, but also introducing the instruments right up close there. You know, we were talking about the Brown Derby and how audiences get to be close to the musicians. Well, that's what we do with those ensembles in the schools as well. And it really excites kids, especially at an age where they're beginning to think about getting involved in instrumental and vocal music themselves. So we can get them excited. We can give them sort of a pathway forward. Hey, here's something that you can be interested in as well. And of course, the music in and of itself is really inspiring for the kids. So it's been just amazing for me to have the opportunity to live here in Cedar Falls and be very present in the communities in Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and some of the surrounding towns, and bring my passion for music and our musicians' wonderful artistry out to these kids at their schools and bring them in to have an experience like never before at the Gallagher. It's really wonderful stuff, and so we're very grateful for the support that we receive for these programs. We have a series of wonderful sponsors for our Lollipop programs, and there are several grantors in the community here that support this work. I also want to give a shout out to our Upbeat group, our close supporters who are members of our Upbeat organization. Many of them also volunteer at our Lollipops. They might volunteer to help our instrument petting zoo, which is out at places like Artapalooza and College Hill Arts Festival, as well as our concerts. So it's wonderful to have volunteers involved as well. And all told, I'd say we have 7,000 to 8,000 kids every year being impacted by these programs. So we're very proud of the work that's being done there, and we hope we can perpetuate that for many years.
That's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about the petting zoo. What is that?
Well, the petting zoo, I like to say, sounds like a zoo. But thankfully it doesn't smell like a zoo. That's the one benefit. You know, it's more the sounds that we hear. Of course, kids making sound on instruments for the very first time, many of them. We have a table from each family of the orchestra: strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion. And the kids literally get to put their hands on the instruments and make sound. It's wonderful. A little bit of guidance from the parent volunteers or the adult volunteers, but it's a chance for kids to feel what making music is all about. And so many of them turn around to their parents and say, I want to do that again. I want to learn that instrument in school. So it's a great way to spark that interest in kids when they really have a chance to encounter music for the first time.
Well, and you know, along with that, Jason, that's one thing that we want to focus on this year. We have so many young students that are in orchestras or bands or just appreciate music, or their parents want to let them experience that. We really want to invite those families this year to come to one or more of our concerts and bring the students. Only $5 for students to come in. And so we have all kinds of promotional things, but we'd really like to have those families come together and experience one of our concerts this year.
How can people become a member of Upbeat and get involved in the opportunities to volunteer time?
Upbeat is $25 a year. You can call our office at 273-3373 if you want more information. You get a number of things with that. You get early ticketing, you get a e-newsletter, so you're up to date on all of our events, special events. There are a number of other things you get with that. And so they can simply keep in touch. We're in the Gallagher Blue Dorn. We're a nonprofit that's not part of the Gallagher. We're a separate entity. However, we're located just down from the ticket windows in Gallagher, and they can come visit us anytime.
Can you describe a few of the opportunities to volunteer?
Volunteering, so whether it's to go to one of the petting zoos like at Artapalooza, and you can go for as little as an hour a year. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It's very helpful to have people come and go. Sometimes we'll have a little mailing campaign, or you can simply be a greeter at one of our doors or something. So they can certainly call us and we can give them some ideas.
Yeah, I believe we have a sign-up opportunity that was emailed out to Upbeat members that they can sign up for very specific jobs, times and dates that they're of their choosing. How can people get tickets for the season?
So for tickets, again, we can help you get tickets in our office, but all tickets are through Unitix, and there are multiple locations. You can go to the Gallagher Blue Dorn, you can also go to McLeod, but I'd suggest you can pull right up to Gallagher, run in and get your tickets. The folks there are so helpful. If you have any questions, again, just call us at the 273-3373. The Unitix is 273-4849. I did want to mention one thing because I'm excited about this. We have some Rachmaninoff at which concert this year?
It's going to be in February.
In February with our Valentine concert. And I would invite people to go watch the old movie with Christopher Reeves, Somewhere in Time, at the Grand Hotel, and get ready for that concert.
Great. Any parting shots, Jason?
Well, I just want to say to folks how exciting and fresh it feels to start this new season. You know, you mentioned I've been around here now, it's been 16 years, so I'm kind of an old hand in the area. But each year as we start a new season, I look at the lineup of concerts and I think, what a great opportunity to invite new people to come experience the symphony, and also to delight folks who love orchestral music with this fabulous stuff, Tchaikovsky and Romeo and Juliet, the Rachmaninoff, and the work we'll be hearing about from Gary Kelly. So I'm just excited as ever to be leading this organization and to be sharing my passion for music with our audiences here in the Cedar Valley.
There is no experience like hearing the greats live. It's a whole different experience than listening to recordings. So make sure that you get your tickets for the orchestra concerts this year, and we expect to see you at the Gallagher Bluedorn.
Here are 5 internet safety tips for kids. Number 1, don't give out personal information such as home address or phone number. Number 2, never send pictures to strangers. Number 3, keep passwords private. Number 4, don't download anything without permission. It may contain a virus that can harm your computer. And number 5, tell an adult if you receive a mean or strange message.
I'm not hungry.
What's wrong, sweetheart?
I miss Daddy.
I know. We all miss him.
I miss him more.
No, I miss him the most.
I miss him a lot.
No,
I got missing him.
I miss him so
Hey,
much more.
hey, everyone shut up. This filter makes me look like a cat. It's so funny, it's making me cry.
Artist Gary Kelly is here to discuss the upcoming Waterloo Cedar Falls Symphony concert season. Gary, the final concert is in 2019 will be April 13th at 7 o'clock at the Great Hall of Gallagher Bluedorn on the UNI campus. You've created some artwork to go along with the music of Dvorak. Would you explain what you're doing with that?
Well, it's sort of like what I've been doing with the symphony for the last few years. Jason comes up with a great idea for a narrative concert, a visual narrative concert, and I spend a lot of time in the studio listening and writing notes and scripting and then directing, making pictures, I guess. That's what I do. I love telling stories with images.
When you do that, do you tell the story of what the music is about, or the story of the composer, or how do you approach that?
That's a good question. I really like variety, so I'm not going to approach every concert the same way. This will be a lot different than Ellington's Nutcracker, let's say, or probably even night music. I really try to figure out a way to put an image on the screen that we can animate to some degree. We can pan and zoom on it. We can do special effects with our wonderful videographer, Jacob Mead, and let the audience sort of figure out for themselves what the connection is between what they're listening to and what they're seeing on the screen. That's a great thing about, I think Paul Gauguin, the painter, mentioned this. I read something a while ago, that painting, and I don't know if these will be paintings or prints or what they'll be, but painting and music are very similar, because it doesn't give the listener or the viewer an exact answer to what they're seeing or hearing. It lets them interpret it. The music is that way, whether you have a visual or not, and the visual is that way. And when you put the two together, hopefully where the visual can support the music and vice versa, I think it makes for a unique experience.
What excites you about the music of Dvorak?
Well, for one thing, his Iowa connection. I think the older I get, the more I appreciate the Iowa connections. I didn't stay here all these years because of that, but I'm becoming more that way, these days. The Iowa connection, of course, and I've read a couple times now a great biography of him written by his son, and there's, of course, chapters devoted to Spillville, and you get a real insight into what Dvorak felt when he came to the United States and he came to Spillville. And I've only been to Spillville once or twice, but between now and the concert, I will be back in Spillville for sure and spend some time. But I also like the fact that I can tell a story on the screen that is based in history. And I love, I'm not into futuristic stories. I'm much more into historic storylines. And so the fact that Dvorak was definitely influenced when he came to the United States in 1893, I think it was. He was definitely influenced by Native American music. And then something I don't think a lot of us realized, he was also influenced by African American music. When he was in Spillville, he saw minstrel shows. He experienced, which had, of course, banjo players and music like that, black banjo players. And then he also was next to, excuse me, medicine shows, which had a Native American presence. So all that stuff kind of comes together.
Jason, how did these projects come about, the collaboration with Gary and the symphony?
Well, Gary and I and the symphony, we've all been working together now for a decade or so, from our very first foray into this combination of visuals and music. And I'd say the first one was a success in many ways, but behind the scenes, we were wondering if it would even happen, really. We were really on edge.
A lot of work.
It really was a different experience then. We've streamlined it quite a bit now. And what that enables us to do is not only present a more sophisticated experience, but take on a bigger topic. I mean, as Gary said, this is really interesting study of a great composer from European music history, but also a history story about America in the 19th century, and especially about Iowa and Spillville. I mean, what was this guy doing in Spillville? We're going to explore that in this concert. It's not the first time the symphony's been involved. So about 10 years ago, we did a program in Spillville and performed at the church, the St. Wenceslas Church up there, which is where Dvorak played the organ every day while he lived there. So we've got some experience and some background there, and the idea in coming to Gary was to say, let's explore the story, let's dig into the music that Dvorak wrote while he was here, some of which, as Gary mentioned, was influenced by his experience. And let's see if we can bring that to life in a visual way. So that's Gary's task, of course, but it's really wonderful to work so closely together, selecting the music, developing the storyline. And in the end, we're going to add another piece this year, which is to bring this story to all the students who attend our youth concerts. They'll also be experiencing kind of a slightly reduced version of the full concert. So there's some wonderful history to be taught there as well in the schools. We think that teachers and educators will be interested in that as well. So this project has a number of components. Since we've been working together now for all these years, we can manage to accomplish these things. And we hope that what that means is that more and more audiences get to experience this incredible artwork that Gary creates alongside this fabulous music, some of which has Iowa connections.
Brad, I wanted to interject here that Gary usually creates 25 to 30 unique pieces of art for this world premiere concert. And Jason, you can maybe add something to this, but I think something that's so cool is for art students who also like music. There aren't too many things like this in Iowa or the Midwest that you can go to and be both with the conductor and with the artist and talk about the inspiration and how they go together and how they created all of these things. So, I'd put a challenge out there to all our university students in the surrounding area also, along with any educators. If you see those kids or those families that are interested in that, and typically we have a pre-chat. I haven't asked these two yet, but before our concert in the Gallagher Blue Dorn, we typically have a 20-25 minute pre-chat out in the lobby, and I'm assuming we will do that. And both Gary and Jason will comment how they created this, and you can ask questions. So to me, that's a big part of this.
Yeah, Jim, I would add to what you said, and I'm sure Gary would echo this as well. Of course, this is such a neat opportunity for folks interested in art, and particularly Gary's art. I mean, we're so lucky to have Gary in the community. But I think also for musicians these days, increasingly, we've realized that the same old way of presenting music is not always going to be viable. We've got to continue to look at interesting ways of approaching these classic pieces and really try to enliven them, both for audiences that know them and also for new audiences. So I think, just like Jim said, as this can be very interesting for people who love art, love visual art, or involved in visual art, I think for musicians too, to have a chance to see us working together, bringing visuals and music into one presentation, that's ever more important these days. And so as a musician, I find that very invigorating, and I think our musicians and audiences generally just are really fired up, I think, by what we managed to create together.
Well, it sounds like a real good learning opportunity for people who are interested in music and art and also history, because it's got a unique part of Iowa history, and just a great opportunity for students to come and learn something they may not know about already. Jim, how can they get tickets?
They can get tickets tickets are on sale to the general public after mid-July. And they can either go to the ticket window at Gallagher Blue Dorn during the day, and there's parking right adjacent to the building, free parking, or they can call Unitix and get their tickets, 273-4849. If they have any questions or they need help with anything at all, call our Symphony office. We're in the Gallagher Blue Dorn, or come and visit us anytime, and our number is 273-3373. I did want to tag on to that very quickly, though. Like Gary said, his plan is to visit Spillville again, but we'd throw a shout out to anyone between here and Spillville, that whole area. People will learn some things and some history and some very interesting things that day, and will be mesmerized by this concert. So we'd invite those folks to get their tickets as soon as they can, and bring the family, bring everyone. It'll be a great concert.
I've been to the museum in Spillville, and if you haven't been there, it's really a great place to visit. It's my understanding that what brought Dvorak to Spillville, in part, was he was homesick, and it was a community very much like the one he came from in Spillville. Do you know more about that, Jason?
I think that's true, in fact, and he had come to the Midwest for the World's Fair in Chicago as well, which took place, I think, in 1894. But Spillville, for him, was like visiting home. I mean, he had been living in New York, directing the conservatory in New York, the music school, and Spillville was a real escape from that. And one of the things you can do there, you can go down to the Turkey River, and you can have a beer alongside the river, just like Dvorak did every day, kind of remind himself of Bohemia. So it's this little bit of Bohemian life in Iowa, but it's brought to life so much by the music, and I think now by Gary's artwork too, that this fabulous connection between our part of the world here in Spillville, Iowa, and Bohemia, in the Czech Republic area where Dvorak was from.
So Brad, I know we're just about out of time, but I just wanted to mention, if anybody's interested in sponsoring any sort of a sponsorship for our concerts or advertising in our programs, we're doing all of those types of things right now, and they can certainly call me at the office anytime. We gladly accept any donations or anything we could do to help sponsor these programs.
I'd like to thank our panelists today for filling us in on the next season for the Waterloo-Cedar Falls Symphony Orchestra, and I hope that everybody will get their tickets and get to the concerts and enjoy this unique opportunity in the Cedar Valley.